Hey everybody, welcome back. What we're going to be going over today is just a short overview on Kubernetes and what it is. I don't really have any slides to show you for this one or any visuals. I just wanted to kind of talk through an overview of what it is and how we would use it. And I will basically get you up and running with some examples of Kubernetes for getting some basically practical experience with it, because to me, that's really the best way to check out Kubernetes. And I will be leaning on some resources from one of my former students, which as a professor, I absolutely love being able to do because, um, your students go out and do great things, and that's what all of you will be doing too. So the material that you're going to be seeing in a lot of the demos and things like that actually come from a former student of mine, Brian Anstut, who has gone on to do a lot of cloud-based work, and he's actually given talks to my classes before. So I am going to be continuing his materials, which is great to do. So Kubernetes, you may or may not have heard of in the past. If you are in the IT world, you probably have experienced it in some way, but it is basically an orchestration engine that you can use to manage containers. And the most commonly thought of container is Docker, right? I mean, I think that's pretty much ubiquitous at this point. This is not intended to be a Docker lecture. Kubernetes actually supports multiple container systems. And actually, if you kind of dig into the current blogosphere on the internet, um, the Docker support is kind of being not deprecated, but worked out so that Kubernetes can more easily support multiple container-based systems. You can use Docker with Kubernetes still, that's not going away, but you have to manually implement it. At least that's my understanding of the direction Kubernetes is going. Probably will change in the future, meaning I'm gonna have to update this video, but basically we have other options. So there's like containerd, um, there is Mesos, LXC Linux containers. There's a bunch of other options out there. The key is that a container is a way of kind of compartmentalizing an application so that you can package it up and ship it out to any device, as long as it runs that container software. So if you've ever pulled a Docker container before, you know that you can run that application natively on your computer without any real headaches. And the headache being getting, Docker up and running if you're on Windows, for instance. It does not like playing with Hyper-V. But the idea, if you're coming at this from an IT-based perspective, an infrastructure-based perspective, being able to deploy an application on multiple machines and be guaranteed that it works is kind of the dream, right? No more, well, it worked on my machine, why doesn't it work on yours? That's the kind of thing that a container service aims to solve. So we're not really intending to get into containers here. Again, you'll be playing with them. And at this point, we have been playing with them with Cloud Build and Cloud Run, right? That's basically, we're building containerized applications that way. Here we're talking about how we orchestrate them at a higher level. So if you think of a container as like an application or a service that's being deployed, Kubernetes, the orchestration engine, is managing all of that. So it's kind of like an operating system in a way, which was Brian's point, and I love making that because it's a great example. But with Kubernetes, we're going to be handling scale up, we'll be handling scale down, we'll be handling storage and networking and resources and routing, traffic, firewalls, configurations, all that fun stuff, which you think of as kind of the typical infrastructure-based tasks. That's what Kubernetes gets us in terms of containers. So with this, again, this is kind of intended to be a short overview. And let's say that we have a container-based application that we're running. Think of it like, some kind of a web application, some kind of a local node-based, maybe it's an Electron application or something like that. You have something that has to be deployed. Okay, well, if we are running this as a server-based environment, let's say that we have currently 3 servers up and running. They're running a bunch of replicates of these Docker containers, serving traffic. Maybe it's being a load balance type of thing. Well, we can add Kubernetes on top of the mix. And if we see, say, server number 2 die or get bogged down, maybe what we do is automatically spin up another instance of that server. If we're running in like a virtual machine type of environment, we can very easily do that, with the templates and things that we've talked about in the past. Well, what Kubernetes will do is we're going to realize that we need to provide a certain amount of traffic, provide a certain amount of resources. Let's automatically spin up some new containers on the server based on how we've configured it. Now I'm doing a lot of hand waving and a lot of that, but basically we would just configure these with the YAML files. So a configurable, again, templated based approach. Here's how much memory we need. Here's how much memory we can request per application. Here is the port that is open. Here is the routes we are taking. Maybe what image are you going to be deploying? We can, add namespaces to these things and kind of separate out our concerns. Basically, there's a lot that we can do here. Let me actually really quickly flip over to an example, and then that will pretty much wrap it up for the overview. But let's say that we have, and again, these are from Brian, so I really like his slides. Let's say that we have an environment here where we have some Docker containers running on 2 servers here, and maybe we have some persistent storage as well. Well, we have a red namespace, we have a blue namespace where they're running possibly different applications. Maybe they're talking to each other, just kind of depends on the application we've containerized, right? Well, here we have server 1 is running these nodes, server 2 is running nodes, it's running these containers, server 2 is running these containers, right? So looks like red is our load balancer, or sorry, red is a load balancer running Redis, blue is also load balanced running Node.js. So I guess maybe if I read the example a little bit closer, database, web application working in tandem here. But the point is, let's say that we have server number 3 over here, and maybe it dies, maybe it gets bogged down. For whatever reason, it's going to have to be restarted so that we can bring it back online. And maybe it's a virtual machine that just went a little bit wonky and we have to reboot it. Well, what Kubernetes is going to do here is we're going to realize that we are now missing a node. And what can happen while this is rebooting, while this resource is down, Kubernetes is going to automatically redeploy one of our blue nodes over here, blued containers to run on server number 2. I realize I'm now reading this in reverse order, but basically it has automatically shifted resources for us. And then once this particular server comes back online, and maybe we can spin up some new containers over here as well, based on what we need resource-wise. So perhaps we're getting hammered with traffic and we need more resources. Kubernetes can realize that for us based on what we are getting reported from in terms of our analytics. Or we can scale back down. Maybe our traffic spike is no longer a concern. Let's get rid of these resources, maybe shut down the virtual machine, and save those credits for another day. Kind of a high-level overview here, and we'll be digging into what Kubernetes is and how it can be used for us. But really the idea is orchestration of containers is kind of the whole takeaway here. And this stuff on the right, basic pseudocode, this is not everything that we would specify. There's more that we can do. But it's a very simple templating language, right? There's not a whole lot of crazy coding going on here. And you don't necessarily need Google Cloud to run Kubernetes. This is something you could deploy by yourself. But if you want to go that infrastructure as a service route, make use of your cloud platform, you can definitely do that there. Anyway, that's enough of an overview from me. I will link you in the description these slides, and we'll be working through some of his demos as well, so you'll see those links spread throughout the blog. But hope this was at least a kind of nice easing in to Kubernetes. So I will see you all next time. Bye, everybody.